I play guitar too, but I play acoustic guitar.
Gotcha. You're the more melodic in the background, just carrying the tune, as they would say.
Exactly.
He's the heart and soul.
Exactly.
He's that heartbeat to the band.
Hello and welcome. My name's J.E. and with me today is my good old friend, Alexander Gonzalez.
What up, what up?
And please remember that we are not game devs. Today, we have two very special guests here. We have Doug and Rob from Here We Are SWLA. How are you guys doing today?
Doing
man,
good,
that was a quick transition.
Come on, Doug. Stay in character.
Yeah.
Hey, I told him I was going to point it out. I told him.
I love that. Was probably one of the smoothest, coolest transitions I've ever heard, Jay.
Buttery smooth. I was feeling it in my bones too, because once you could podcast with someone for over 100 episodes, you can kind of feel it like rain coming on to arthritis. Yeah. Where I was like it's coming soon.
Your knees just like, oh, there's Jay. He's ready to go.
Yeah, you can smell the rain coming.
For the listeners here, real quick, Doug, would you mind showing off your voice here, real quick?
Hey, everybody. My name's Doug.
Awesome. And Rob?
Hey, guys. What's going on? It's Rob.
Me and Alex have to figure out a better way of doing guests and introducing guests. Because, like, we are so, like, glued to our script. When we have, like, to change it a little bit, I always stumble. I don't know about you, Alex.
No,
I do all right. But so I'm black or white. I'm either on the script, good on the script, or I'm off the script and you're not going to get me back. Not for the outro, like the train is off the rails. I'll get an approximation. There'll be a couple key words, but otherwise, no.
Here's the thing with me and Rob. If we got a script, we would go off of it immediately. So we just cannot have a script.
Have you guys seen Tropic Thunder before?
We have. I have.
Yeah. That's actually a big hole in my movie scene. I never got to see it.
Well, when you watch it, Alex, you'll understand my next statement. I don't read the script reads me. That's right.
But those are not the black-faced actors we were talking about today.
Oh,
we are creating something new.
He got away with it clean.
Every week, We Are Not Game Devs will create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but not having knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. Today is Doug's turn, I want to say, to present our 105th IP, or who had the game idea here?
This would be Doug. See, we were actually talking today, throwing ideas back and forth, and this game went off the rails from the original concept, and I'm in love with this concept.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, cool. We eventually had to be like, all right, we need to rein this in a little bit.
We can't leave this in the hallway. We've got to bring this to the game devs to check out.
Definitely, let's hear it. What do you guys have for us?
You want to lead off? Or you want me to do it?
Oh, Doug, this is your baby. I just helped get it there.
All right, so the game starts off where you are a convict that's being released from prison. All right, and obviously not a petty. It's like just a petty crime because you're getting out already. And you arrive at your uncle's house, who has a mansion out in the wilderness, and his family is we decided a ghost hunter.
So like have y'all seen Supernatural with the Winchester brothers?
Yes.
Like you end up coming into this, you have to go, like it's court mandated, you have to stay with your uncle. Mm-hmm. Like this is your last option. Otherwise, third strike, you're going back to prison for a lot longer for all the petty crimes you've done, all this other stuff. So he's led a hard life. So he goes to his uncle's and he finds out through a few like the game kind of kicks off a little slow and everything, but you find out he was this hunter of ancient artifacts and different, weird things around the world, kind of like the hunters in Supernatural. And that goes back to Doug explaining the next portion.
All right. So he finds this artifact in the third floor of the house. And when he interacts with said artifact, he basically releases a well of souls. And before the souls are absorbed into his body, his uncle jumps in, absorbs the souls, and then dives out the window to save him, to save the character. And that's how the game starts. And basically, we want it to be like a survival horror type thing, where you basically have to either escape from this demon that's now inhabiting your uncle, or find a way to destroy the artifact and kill it.
Interesting.
So already, I'm thinking the way it has to be. I feel like this is my opinion. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong here. But horror games and horror movies, what they do wrong in making usually the last third of the game movie bad is they reveal the monster / big bad too early. We get used to seeing them in picture and we're not scared of them anymore. So I feel like
go ahead.
So I feel like with the uncle, lots of the uncle before he transforms in the beginning of the game, but after he jumps out of that window, maybe you see the souls kind of getting into him. You see his eyes kind of getting up, maybe one good close up, and then as he throws himself out, when you go to check on that body after you try to figure out what happened, it's gone. You're not going to see too much of the uncle. You'll see maybe the effects of him on the world and how he tries to torment you, but I don't want you to see him. I want there to be dread, like you're scared, but you have to make the character move forward, kind of thing.
We like that.
I would also want to add something on top of Alex's bit there. Let's say the soul gets sucked into your uncle and all that. But that wasn't the only soul that was released from this artifact. What I'm thinking is the soul that took over the uncle's body is like the boss of these souls, and there's multiple souls that came out, and it's going to be like Luigi Mansion style where you're going from area to area around this house, also kind of like Resident Evil 7, I guess, and you're just taking down other underlings of the person who took over your uncle's soul's body, and then maybe they could these souls will inhabit other random things in your uncle's house. So maybe your uncle has random collections of knickknacks that he got from all over the world. Like maybe one soul goes into the body of a mummy that he has in the basement, and then you have this epic mummy fight against a demon, or I don't know if they're demons or not, but this thing that goes into this body of a mummy and animates it, and then another one could be random, like a car or something like that.
Where I think you could definitely take it and go really unique. So not only is it things, but what if a soul, what if there's ways where souls end up taking over animals because maybe they're demonic, so they want to use an animal's form better because that relates to their original form more, because we don't have to keep tying them to humans. And maybe if we go down, there could be a particularly powerful individual where the soul only takes them over halfway. There's a struggle there. So they feel like they can use the soul for their own gain, but the soul's slowly trying to take them over and inhabit the body.
Would it be weird?
You can see multiple enemies.
Would it be weird if that particular soul that tries to take over something, let's say it's your uncle's dog, right? And it takes over, but the dog has a really strong will for whatever reason, and that's the first soul that you have to defeat in the game, and then that dog kind of becomes your helper for the rest of the game.
Oh, see, I like that.
That's
your
pretty
Navi,
cool.
you know what I mean?
I could see it happening where the dog tries to come get you. That's the first thing where you hear maybe some nails clicking and you try to call over the dog. Everything's dark. Maybe, normal power surge whenever there's any extraterrestrial stuff or spiritual stuff going on. And you get the dog, you restrain it, and you're looking for some artifacts, and you happen to find just holy water that your uncle had. It makes sense for him to have it. You dunk it on the dog, and you slowly see the dog start to whimper and then become normal again. And that's how you get your Navi.
I'm thinking that.
And that would also be a really good tutorial section to teach the player how to interact with the environment and what the combat or gameplay is going to be. What is it? So far, I'm envisioning first person, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen Monolith's stuff with Shadows of Mordor and Shadows of War.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of the Nemesis system that they developed for that game.
We love it.
So here's the thing. Think about it like this. Do we tell the title of the game yet or no?
Not quite yet. It's not great that you have one so we don't have to dwell on it for too long.
Well,
that's nice.
Think of it like this. You're dealing with a guy who's a ghost hunter. He's hunted these demons, these demonic forces. He's basically imprisoned them all in this artifact, which is kind of like a cauldron type artifact that holds all these wells of souls. So every time you defeat the uncle character as a monster demon killer, because the focus is, he's trying to kill you, that demon is expelled from the uncle, and now you get a totally different demon character you have to defeat, and you have to find different weapons. You have certain spells, certain charms, certain enchanted weapons you have to use. And the thing is, the whole game is randomized. You don't know what you're going. It's always a new experience for every gamer that plays this game, so you never get the same experience twice. And sometimes the same demon will resurface, but because you used an ice spell or a fire spell or a certain type of necromancy to destroy that demon, it's going to come back with a different augmentation and a different power skill set that's going to give you an even harder challenge. And you may not be able to use the same weapons, you may not be able to use this. You may be stuck to where you have to use your weapon as a tool to break a door open, or you may have to enchant bullets for your rifle or shotgun, which is ammo in this game is so limited, it makes Last of Us look like you went to the army surplus. That is how much I want the fear factor of like, okay, you've really got to think how you're going to survive. In fact, when you leave the attic, the third level of the mansion at the beginning of the game, all you have is an old tattered journal with a few defense spells so you can evade being killed, and like some other lame tool you fashioned that had some enchantments on it to use as a melee weapon, just so you can get to the second floor. So that's my little spiel to kind of, I hope that ties in the concept of it's almost like Shadows. I'd like for it to kind of be like a third person. What do you think, Doug? Did you want first person or third? We never discussed that.
I definitely wanted, like, I had a Resident Evil kind of thing in mind for me.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm thinking, with all the monsters that are going to be appearing and the uncle manifesting in different ways, could we also have the journal where maybe there's a glossary section where it doesn't have all the information about monsters, but maybe a fact or a description? So, like, if you're like, oh, what did that thing have, like, some wings on it? Let me go check this out.
Well,
maybe it'll be one of these.
Like The Witcher.
So you could narrow it down like The Witcher, and then maybe you're not going to have all kinds of ammo, but maybe you could get on the trail of almost crafting something. So when you're about to get up to that fight, you feel like you have a leg up, like, a green herb or try to make some first aid.
I missed it real quick. Was that journal that you guys are talking about your uncle's journal, and you just find that? And then maybe
it's not even his uncles. It's like an ancestors, because this.
Okay, it's like
you
a
find out
family
he's
tradition.
like been a family tradition that he was not privy to, because and I'm a world builder when it comes to games. I love story upon story. That Doug had to like rein me in, like, okay, well, look, this is an awesome concept, but you got to slow down, killer. We're talking about a horror game, not writing an anthology,
right?
Well,
I mean, it could eventually become one. I feel like maybe at the end. Okay, I'm getting a little ahead of it now, but this just came to me, so I'm going to say it now before I forget it. Maybe at the end you destroy the artifact, or so you think. What you really did, you destroyed it, and then you released. At first, you just opened it, and then closed it, and so you released, like, let's say 20, but you don't meet all 20, like you said. It's kind of like the Nemesis system. It's just they're out, but you meet about, let's say, more like 30, so you get a lot of variety in there. But as soon as you break that thing open at the very end of the game, like, let's say if there were to be a sequel, the sequel is like more worldly. You go all over the world, and then there's like,
oh, you're gonna love this. Yeah,
lots of different monsters, or not spirits. You know what I mean? But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. But yeah,
you're fine, because the reason the whole, like, I'm always bad about setting up how it happened, because everybody's like, well, how did the artifact get broken in the first place? So it's sealed by blood magic because of this family's heritage of imprisoning these demons. The kid doesn't know what he's opening.
Yeah.
He's just like being drawn to this artifact because, he's not initiated into the hunters, his hunter family. He doesn't know anything. So the spirits are kind of luring him. He doesn't understand why.
Yeah.
So when he breaks that blood magic bind on that artifact, now his uncle is basically who suffers from it. At the end of the game, you end up figuring out how to like reseal the blood magic artifact. But somebody in the sequel steals it and takes it to an insane asylum and breaks it open. Now you're in a 4 to 5 floor building, and like, think of it kind of how Arkham Asylum worked, where you're in the asylum, then when you go to the second game where it's Arkham City, kind of like that. It's almost like now you're in a bigger facility. Exactly, you're in a bigger, more industrial style facility, kind of almost like Condemned was. So anyways, that's the sequel concept in my mind. Right. Doug has some ideas on that were really good too.
It could also be, just to add even one more layer, the person who takes it and brings it over to the asylum could be your mother. Your long lost mother.
Wow.
And she always had something against the family tradition. Anyway, we're talking about a sequel. We'll talk about this game right now.
Yeah. So with the game, to bring it back, with the game right now, since it's going to be survival horror and you're not going to have too much ammo, that means you're going to be avoiding combat and maybe only having one big confrontation a level. I'm thinking you're gonna have to run into different characters as well, because let's be real, a demon doesn't just affect one person. That's not how demons or spirits work.
No.
They reign, they sit there and affect a community. So you're going to be in it and you're going to have to interface and talk with different people. I think it would even be more interesting if there was people who believed and people who didn't. People who were trying to help you, and then people who maybe went all the way to the other side of the spirits and they want to help the spirits. They think it's right.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? So you mentioned your uncle has like a mansion. I'm thinking like Lara Croft style. It's a pretty big house,
That they're thinking 3 stories with a basement, and then there's actually a pool house and like a green room type situation where those. And the cool thing is, I like it because you start out really small, like you're in the attic, you're having to work your way down slowly. Once you get to the first floor, now you have a courtyard, and the whole place is enchanted, so you can't leave. So it kind of makes it more realistic. Oh, there's a huge demonic barrier around this mansion compound.
Yeah.
And you can't break that till either you figure out a way to escape, I love Doug's idea on that. That was your idea, Doug, to give that option to where you could escape or you could fight the monsters. So you almost get to, an either or concept, to where you could be more strategic and you're trying to discover more of like these tomes and these spells and these lures to help you escape from the mansion so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Or you're going balls to the wall, finding every little bit of ammo you can to go to war.
Yeah.
And that was I kind of took that the escape or defeat from Dead by Daylight, because I'm a really big fan of that game.
Unfortunately, I've never played, so I can't really. I'm assuming it's like Friday the 13th, almost.
Yeah, kind of.
I
I don't even know which one came first, honestly.
So
I don't know.
Since Alex just mentioned what he mentioned a little while back, at first I thought it was just your uncle and you in this place. So when these spirits take things over, it'd be like animals and like maybe, like I said, a mummy, and then maybe like random stuff like Transformers 2 or Transformers 3, where the Allspark started making other random things into robots. I don't know which one it was. Anyway,
that was 2. That was unfortunately 2.
We don't talk about that.
2.
We can talk about it. You just won't like my discussion on it.
I thought these spirits were taking over like ovens and cars and shit. But if it's going to be other people, maybe it's going to be that your uncle does have staff to help maintain this.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, this mansion, and some of the staff
like
are privy to the spirit ghost stuff that his uncle is, and some of them the lower end, like maybe the butler knows everything, but he's against it all, and he's like, in the end, maybe he's the real big bad. Like he's the one that kind of wanted.
And there could be a whole big cast of characters where you have a butler, you have a matron of the house, you have a groundskeeper,
you have a chef,
when you have a house like that I'm thinking of now, it takes a whole cast and crew to run it.
Exactly. Have you guys played this game? I talk to Alex about this all the time, but this game called The Council.
I
don't think I've heard of that one.
That sounds familiar, but is it a PC game?
I think it's on everything. Except
on everything?
Except for Switch, but it's on everything else. I think. But yeah, in the accounts, I don't want to go too far into it, but in the council, it's a similar idea where all these people are stuck in a house, and then there's like, you have to kind of solve the mystery, right? So that's kind of like how I'm thinking this will go. There's like multiple people that you'll meet and you get to learn more about. And maybe how we could do the Nemesis system is each time you defeat one spirit in one of the people that work in this house, another spirit will take over someone else's body. And maybe every playthrough, the spirit that takes over a body is always going to be the same spirit. So let's say the butler, or not the butler, let's say the housemaid, she will always be taken over by the same spirit, but it won't be the same in every playthrough. And if you beat her once, when she comes back to the housemaid, she'll, like the Nemesis system, she'll have something to like be against what you just killed her with.
I think so for
I
stuff like
that idea a
that,
lot.
I think if she, if you used holy water, for example, just one big thing out there, she'll have things where she's not going to get wet. She'll have protections against that, so that strategy will not be used again.
Yeah.
Or she looks like she's just, come out of a marsh and she's covered in this gel that protects her from that, is what you're saying, I guess?
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly.
gonna
She would have some kind of adaptation or take in a different host this time that wouldn't succumb to that challenge.
See, you know how like those hunting rooms in those old mansions where there's all the stuffed animals?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bro, could you imagine just if the whole room came to life?
Just one.
There's a really
spirit
awesome
that- Maybe it's a spirit that could like split itself up and take over multiple
We are
things,
Legion.
or maybe it's a random one for every playthrough.
Oh yeah.
You never know which one you're gonna get.
Oh, how bad would that be if just all of a sudden the bear just reaches out, grabs you, and throws you across the room?
It's like Gary's mod prop hunt, where like
Yeah,
every time you enter
exactly.
that room, you don't know which one it is. That ghost.
You'd have
Yeah.
to run
not the ghost,
depending.
the
If it's the
spirit
bear,
will take over whatever. Yeah.
That is nightmare fuel because you don't know where it's coming from.
yeah, for me, I'd be like, bear, I'm out of there. I don't have enough ammo. I'm running. If it's like an antelope head, all right, let's see what happens. Let's mix it up.
All right. So what I want to talk about, we're going to go all the way back to the beginning of when this whole conversation
Go for it.
started. The dog.
Okay.
We're not red deading this dog.
No, we're not. I don't know if you want this to happen, but I want this dog to be your uncle found a way to have your dog, his dog, sorry, not necessarily like be able to talk, but he's able to like communicate with you in some way. And that's going to be kind of the dog is going to be the person that, not person, you know what I mean? He or she is going to be the one that like will show you, hey, if you go over here, there's something you could interact with.
She's your
I
hit
think-
marker, basically.
Yeah,
I think you should do it
Yeah.
where the dog signals, but in no way talks. So you can do whines, cries, but I think if it goes too Scooby-Doo, it's going to take away from the horror.
No,
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking Scooby-Doo. I was thinking more Up with Doug, where it's like maybe like a machine or like a psychic ability or an artifact.
Then
that
I
you're
want it to be
found.
creepy. I want it to
Guys,
be like the way
psychic-
or like a chimera talks, like Full Metal Alchemist. Like basically, once that soul took it over, it's not ever quite the same.
Not like the Chimera though, because that's freaky and kind of
No.
sad.
No, but I want it to be scary. Like I want it to always be scary in intonation of this game. Like it shouldn't be like I don't want there to be the positivity of a dog, like the one shining light. Because then I do want to kill the dog.
Maybe
then.
it's more
Sort
like
of.
Red 13 from Final Fantasy 7, where it's not a dog. It's like a dog-like creature that your uncle
That'd be
found and
cool.
kept as not a pet, but like a companion. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
You know what would be really cool is if you could do psychic broadcasting, like there's radio speakers in the room or something, and through that you hear like the hissing and the crackling, and the dog is psychically communicating, or the animal
like that.
itself is communicating through the
or
speakers.
Maybe if this animal is small enough, you can have it go into rooms ahead of you and maybe have like a psychic link where you can see what's in the next room.
I like
That
that
would
because
be
that
kinda
would be
cool.
scary too, as you're looking
Yeah.
through the eyes of a smaller animal.
So
Yeah.
one of the things when I was concepting the nemesis aspect of this, what I love is that I would go farming for orcs in Shadows of War and
Yeah.
Shadows of Mordor.
Same here.
You know, and like get these badass looking orcs. What I would love to do is a different concept because I don't want to rehash what they did. How cool would it be if your creature, your dog, basically your familiar is what the dog would be.
Exactly.
You could have this technique called summoners, and you can channel these ancient deities and monsters and everything through that animal as a summon to help you fight the big bad characters. And on top of that, you have a percentage rate that says whether the summon will turn on you mid-battle, beginning of the battle, end of the battle. Now you might have that, you can use the summon, but the fear factor of it is that the summon can turn on you, and then once the summoning spell runs its course, you get your companion back. The companion doesn't get harmed by the summon. Does that make sense?
That's really cool. I also had this quick idea where going back to what Doug was saying about it being able to go into other rooms and you could kind of see through its eyes, like a detective mode type of thing.
Yeah,
maybe,
I love that.
Maybe the way that happens is right after you break open this artifact and it releases all these souls into the world, and then you go around and you fumble around, and then you finally fight the dog for the first time in the spirit. After you beat the dog and the spirit, you find another artifact that your uncle has found, and it looks like a collar, and then you put it on, and that connects you two.
That's cool.
You know what I mean? Like, it's an
Kinda
artifact
simple.
that like connects you with this animal, and that'll give you like that psychic connection that'll explain like why everything's working on that HUD like it does. You know,
you could even extend that, like, because I like that better than my speaker idea. But how cool would it be to use that speaker idea as your method to find that collar? Like, the dog's kind of communicating, and it's annoying because it's a puzzle factor. And then once you get that, you're like, oh my god, I don't have to have any more radios around.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, that's over.
And
but it's like a cool nostalgia. What you got, Doug?
Yeah, go for it, Doug.
And maybe we can also add in some other upgrades you can find throughout the house for the dog to give it extra abilities.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Different runes, like you were talking about, Doug. I believe we talked about runes.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
enchantments
So-
and
Now we're getting to gameplay. How much do we want the main character? We have that the dog has certain abilities and stuff like that, and it's going to have different power-ups, I think, as we go through different rooms. And we can even do it like open gameplay idea where it doesn't matter what upgrades you get after that first initial one with the collar. What is the player going to be able to do here? I know we have scarce ammo, scarce stuff. Is it going to be mostly melee then, or is there going to be traps? What are you guys thinking?
Now, I don't know for sure, but I think Jay has an idea.
Yeah, I do. So, thanks,
for it,
Doug.
Jay.
So you guys mentioned two different things, and I love the idea of both, and I want them both to be in it. But I want it to be kind of like I'm trying to think of something to relate to. I can't. I want you to have two things: a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. And the ranged weapon, you could find multiple different types of guns, and each one has their own thing. Same thing with the melee weapons. Different type of melee weapons, and they all have different things. But what makes them different is, like you guys said, there's runes that you could find in this house, this mansion, and each rune does different effects to each of these weapons, right? And I'm thinking the gun works similar to, I know we talked about this before about Outlaw Star, where you have different bullets that could do different abilities and different spells or whatever. And then you'll have your melee weapon. And I guess it's kind of like God of War, where you could like add things to your weapon to do different things with it.
Even like The Witcher. The Witcher did that, where you could augment your sword to do different things.
Or the materia in Final Fantasy VII. Like you would attach things that you find around your uncle's mansion that will give different effects. But you only have like a limited amount of slots, like one or two to change the effect. And you have to choose the two best runes to match whatever monster spirit that you're going to be fighting. Right. And you can switch those out once you find them. They don't break or anything. They're infinite use. You could just switch them out as you please or with your play style.
I dig that.
But that's how I assume the player works. And I also assume that your dog will also have attack capabilities. Like you said, you can make it summon, transform. But until the meter builds up, you could maybe, I don't know.
Maybe just some distraction type stuff where it can just like gnaw at the legs or something.
Right.
Like maybe so it's more like you could have your dog maybe go distract this person by jumping on top of them and distracting them for a bit, so you could take down this enemy and then move over to the one that your dog was putting down for a couple of seconds. Yeah. Sorry, Rob.
Now, I have an idea.
Go ahead,
that
Alex.
I wanted to float past you guys. Now, I wanted to kind of continue the Nemesis system in the sense that if you use the same kind of material or elemental augmentation on your weapons for like maybe two spirits, what if the spirits talk to each other? And now that's just not going to be a thing. So if you got used to fire, they're kind of known where they know you're going to use fire. They're like, oh no, this is what his best element is. So we're going to prepare for that now, so that they're onto you just as much as you're onto them.
Well, and another idea Doug and was brought up and we kind of expanded on was having these weapons caches, like small, curio cabinets, but they're locked or warded. Like, the warding is going to be a big thing because that's one thing that can limit your familiar, your dog, from going through the game with you in every room. Like certain warding you can remove so that you have your familiar with you, but that makes it harder for your character, to be more strategic, obviously, because this animal can't go into every room in the house. Like it's kind of like putting up a doggy, one of those dog guards, so he can't go into your room and take a dump in the middle of it. But
That's true.
in a sense, but with spirits, and so you've got that.
And what you mentioned earlier too, you could do something to the effect of making the environment different. So instead of maybe making the spirits change themselves, they'll just, like, if you're using fire a lot, maybe they'll flood a section of the attic. So all of a sudden you're in there and it's waterlogged. So like you're stepping through and you're plopping through water. And not only are you slower, but you can't use as much fire magic.
Well, and that's the thing too, like as you ramp up killing these demons and they're coming back or the next one's manifesting, you're basically going from like Scooby-Doo level to poltergeist. So like as you kill your uncle, so you've got to be careful how many times you kill the uncle or the demons, exorcise the demons from the uncle, because they could randomize and be like a level 100 poltergeist coming at you. And now the room's coming to life, like y'all have talked about, and everything's coming at you in different ways, like vines, or the molding is becoming vines and the couches are opening up with huge teeth trying to eat you, and just like nightmare fuel at its finest. Yeah. I think that's fantastic. One thing I definitely told Doug has got to be in the game, that's got to be the hardest, most challenging thing to get to, is the armory. Because, when you're a ghost hunter and you have this huge mansion, at somewhere in that house is every kind of enchanted weapon you need. And that's got to be the hardest thing to get to. Like, that has got to be the most satisfying achievement, because you've been scrapping. Like, you still don't have much ammunition, if you will. But you'll get like a long spear with a blade in it that has a chain attached to it. You can just do these whip around attacks and things that you just unique weapons that were forged by monster killers, basically.
I like the idea that instead of one central armory, what would you like the idea of it being multiple different secret rooms around the mansion that the uncle has placed to put special weapons in each room in case of emergencies? Wherever he is in the mansion, he has easy access to one of these secret rooms that has a special weapon in it.
And on top of that secret room, what I'm thinking is, what if we send it back to the ancestry? That way there's more world building, where it's actually one of your ancestors' best signature weapons. So you'll unlock the room and you'll be like, my great-great-great-great-grandfather used a spear with a chain to gain, so he can attack from range but still keep him at bay. And then maybe another one would be like a crossbow. And that way you can kind of figure out who you'd like to fight like.
I really dig that.
And then on top of that, you could even have flavor text, or maybe you run into a soul that recognizes that weapon. Maybe he died to that weapon.
Oh, that would be, and since it's randomized, how satisfying would that be to get the connection between those?
It would tie you to that world a little bit more.
You just blew my mind right there, Alex, because I just thought all these spirits were spirits your uncle caught. Now I'm thinking these are spirits from hundreds of years, where all
generation.
Like, it would be stuff where you would even hear like a demon voice kind of coming out and be like, I haven't touched mortal soil in thousands of years. And you're like, oh Lord, what did I have just done? Who is this?
The ultimate weapon is guarded by the spirit that the starter of your entire family tradition of ghost hunters hunted this. This was his, like, the very first demon hunter in your family is the one that killed this, like, god, pretty much. And that's like the guardian of the best weapon in the game. You know what I mean?
I love that. Well, you know what I would love to see more than anything too? Everything randomized. Like the rooms y'all are talking about is so much better than a central armory. Like you could have like maybe a cool, like that, like they say when you see the potions and the health kits and everything, and you're like, something's about to go down. Like maybe there could be a really cool extra perky armory for the final battle, because you're going to need everything in there. But I like y'all's idea, because you could also randomize the rooms. Like you're not going to necessarily get, and this would piss me off, but I want to play it for this reason. if you get the randomized rooms you go into, don't work on the current monster you're fighting, the current demon you're fighting. Like this has no vulnerability to ice, and all you do is walk in to a room from like when you had an Inuit ancestor an ancestor who hunted like Inuit demons, and so like all you have is ice-based weapons to take them down. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No, definitely. I was thinking even in my mind, mine was like if you had an ancestor from the Crusades, so you have like a piece of paladin armor that's been bathed in the blood of demons, and then you walk in, it's lightning, so it automatically conducts. So you're just screwed, and you're like, I've got this big armor. I'm gonna talk to my friends about this tomorrow, and you're like, well, it's useless. I gotta figure it out.
I love this.
All this being said, I do kind of want to sensualize it and then also add an idea I have. So pretty much you start off in this attic, you release all these demons, and you're going around this house fighting these demons to get to your uncle that you fight multiple times. Do we want it where the gameplay is like you have to beat 10 demons and then you fight your uncle, then you got to beat 10 more demons and then fight your uncle? Or do you want it to be more like you could fight as many spirits, demons, what do you want to call them, until you want to go face off against your uncle, and then that'll take you to the next story beat? Or do you want it to be more like 5, uncle, 10, uncle, 15, uncle, final boss type of deal? Like, what's the structure you're thinking about here?
I think it's like our podcast. It's so freeform, we don't even know. But, I would say if we're doing realism, see, the one thing I think Doug brought up a great point of is the pacing. He's very much like I am with pacing being a thing, and he wants it to be like there's no time to think, there's no time to really do anything, or if you're doing it, you've got to do it smart, because it's got to be about that just got this edge, a dark, just mysterious atmosphere, and there'll be certain points where it's not. You'll get those little breaks like, I can breathe and go through like these 30 books in this one little library I found to find new spells to enchant with. But I think Doug made this point. Wasn't it you, Doug, that said you want the monster to just be on your heels all the time?
Yeah, kind of like, Mr. X from Resident Evil 2 or Nemesis or Jack from Resident Evil 7.
Part of it can be the wards on the room protect you, but only for a certain time that this demon can break down the warding. Does that make
Jay's
sense?
Got an idea.
Yeah. So
go for it, Jay. I love your ideas.
I wanted to add this to it. So instead of it being more like certain rooms have a special warding or barrier power, what if we do like a unique twist? So like the entire game takes place in this one mansion and then the area surrounding it. So I assume there's also like maybe a garden area, pool area, multiple areas around this mansion. Anyway, that's not important. What I'm thinking, so at first I thought this would be like Resident Evil 7, where you're just following a linear path. But what if it's more like Dying Light, where there's a complete day and night cycle, right? And only at night do these spirits are able to take over. During the day, that's when you have time to go explore, talk to the people who are being taken over. And in the day, they seem like total normal people. They have no idea that this is happening. And you could talk to them. You could build relationships. You could even take side quests, or maybe like even do like fetch quests and just learn more about the mansion and your family history. And then as soon as it turns night, let's say it's like 12 minutes for day, 12 minutes for night. And then between those cycles, you have to like choose, I'm going to take this daytime to explore. I'm going to use this, or I'm going to use this daytime to speak. And then nighttime, it's just constant. You're being chased by your uncle who's been taken over. And your uncle could even be like someone you could talk to during the day. And for some reason, you can't like tell them about what's happening at night or whatever. And so it's like this weird, it's like an open world, like day and night cycle type of game, but it's not open world. It's just all in this one building. But you have to use your daytime in order to stock up, resupply, talk to whoever you need, get side quests when you can. And then at night, that's when the story starts progressing. And then
I want to add on one more thing.
Yeah.
On top of that, research. So if you want to spend your time maybe opening
hold on
up
1 second, guys.
I've got to pause for just a second.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem. We'll just continue and fill you in. I was thinking,
I gotta get this out.
Get it, boys, get it.
so I'm thinking about maybe a small research library that during the day, like at night, becomes absolutely terrifying. Maybe there's a spirit that's in there that you're
can
always
even
going to have
ward
to
it,
overcome. Yeah, or
I like
so-
that.
and because ghosts and libraries go hand in hand, there's always going to be someone going back. So I'm thinking that's where you can kind of figure out what kind of demons are inhabiting. So like, let's say at night, if you just really couldn't get over that demon, that's okay. Sometimes you can't in one night, and you have to go back during the day and either talk to somebody, or if that doesn't work, maybe nobody's seen it or heard about it, you would go to the research library. If that doesn't work, maybe the next night you're like, dude, this guy's constantly tormenting me. I'm having the hardest time. Then maybe you go somewhere else and then you figure it out.
That's a cool concept. One thing I definitely like is the concept of Doug's back. Let's wait for Doug for this part. Kill him in real quick.
Yep. So all I had to say on that, Doug, was in a long-winded way, which I do anyway, is I just wanted to add on a research library onto Jay's task. That way, during the day, if you're having an especially hard time with a ghost at night, you can kind of do a little bit of research and then gain a little bit of lore, maybe a weakness, or at least something in the right direction. Like you could even maybe point to somewhere in the house, like, oh, this person's always had a hard time in her garden with this particular spirit popping up.
Yeah, I think that's cool that like wherever you go during the day cycle affects what you're going to deal with that night. Part of the randomization, like you're upsetting where this demon's kind of their territories. Kind of like, there was different levels in Shadows of War where you could go to like, different parts of the map of Mordor. So almost like in this house and everything, like you got to work your way down to the first floor. Like the first act of the game could be getting through the first and second floor. You're in survival mode. And then the last, the second act on, you're on the ground floor, and you can go back to the other floors for different rooms that are locked or sealed or enchanted or warded, that where you can't access them initially. Very stripped down. Now you've got the keys to the kingdom. You're in the day cycle. You're going through all of this and kind of almost getting the world building aspect, or you can power through like y'all are talking about where, you're just ramping up, getting everything. You're connecting with these different characters on the grounds that have no memory of everything going on. The uncles disappeared. They're trying like, what happened to them? They even start thinking you killed him.
Ooh.
So you can't say anything about it.
That could be like last third act of the game where all of a sudden everyone in the house is against you. And maybe the last third, sorry to interrupt, but the last third is like internal night. Something happens in the game story where it becomes night forever, and that's like the point of no return.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Like
there we go.
Solstice coming. Yeah.
So just to tack on, I feel like this game has to have lots of secrets. So if you're in the library and you end up turning over a certain sequence of books, it's going to reveal a deeper library where those are the real books, and that's where it's really at. I think if you're sitting there and you turn over a candle, that's going to end up bringing something else out. There has to be tons of stuff going on in here because, come on, this house has been inhabited for generations. So there has to be like small stone patchwork hallways and stuff like that. That way, it changes with every single playthrough. And maybe that stuff would change too and what's available.
What period should this kind of game be set in? What do you think, Doug? What do y'all think? What kind of period kind of fits this now? Because it's evolved so much to like, you don't know what era it should be in. Like, because for one, I love gun play in certain games, but I don't want it to be like, oh, I can just basically get a gun and take these out. I want that strategy aspect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Maybe.
I have two thoughts.
Go for it.
I would say contemporary, so like today, and the guns. The reason why you have these guns, they're guns that are in your uncle's house. So it's not like you're getting like an AK-40. You know what I mean? Like you're not getting a Uzi or anything. You're finding like a.
I mean, maybe the uncle's an arms dealer.
Right,
we don't know.
Right.
But if you're finding old guns, I'd say why not make it like 50 years ago where it's more tactile. Maybe you don't have automatic weapons, so it really feels good when you hear the chink, chink, chink as you're reloading,
Yeah.
And maybe it's even more old school than that, where you're not finding ammo, but you're finding like powder, and you have to press the shell casings and imbue it and dip it in whatever augment you want and kind of go that route. Maybe that'd be part of the daytime
and
ritual that you're going to be doing, is preparing.
Maybe some of the guns also jam even if you load them correctly.
Right.
Like when you go to fire the gun that jams.
Could you imagine? It's like it has its own spirit that also playfully plays with you sometimes. So it's like the gun has possessed itself, but it's just neutral.
Ooh. I have a really cool Doug, you may not like this where I'm about to go with this, but it's a little bit of a change up to the origin of the main character.
Okay.
It's in the 60s, right?
Yeah, sure.
He's a draft dodger who's went to his uncle's estate in Canada to escape Vietnam.
Oh, Canadians.
But he ends up, I'm just saying this is an alternate concept idea, but that's what leads him into his own personal war. He couldn't dodge, the war going on in Vietnam, and it's real isolated. There's not a lot of technology. Yeah. And you're able to kind of world build. And you also have that 60s nostalgia where you could have hippies. They're like a commune of hippies that maybe show up on the grounds that turn into demons at night.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean?
No, you just popped up in my head this scene where they're dancing by the bonfire, right? And they're just having a good time. And then as the sun slowly sets behind them, you see the souls inhabit them, and then their dancing starts to turn really jerky, and it doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden you see them dancing in a different way where their limbs kind of pop, and you're like
a
oh no,
ritual.
Yeah. And then you're like, and the hippies just turned. As you're watching from like a window somewhere.
It's not about peace and love anymore. It's about gore and death. It's
I want that on a shirt.
I don't know. What do y'all think? Does that sound like a cool era and like a little bit? I know it's a little bit of a change from the original concept, but I feel like that would be the realism of the world building aspect. Almost. I mean, I don't know.
I like it, but it's not my baby. So there's that where I can co-sign on it for sure. I think that's cool right there because it is a societal clash, which I always kind of liked because I want to see how different people on the grounds would have different attitudes towards the spirits and how that would affect their possession.
And how he interacts with them. Some of them might be war veterans that look at him like, oh, you're dodging the war. I fought in this war, and like kind of builds these almost like a nemesis system within the nemesis system, the daytime version, which like you're saying affects them when they're possessed. And now not only does the demon have this hatred towards your character being the new hunter in training, on the job training, in fact, but now the memories of what the interactions you had with the people during the day, positive or negative, the decisions you made affect how they're going to interact even more so and intensify the demon powers. So like if somebody absolutely hates your guts and they get possessed by a poltergeist level demon, you're kind of screwed. You might want to run. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I know I'm diving back into development side, which I apologize for, but it just hit me like, what would build the most confrontation? Because to me, almost the convict aspect and the uncle aspect, as far as how it was originally conceptualized, it has a lot of basis off of things we already know, whereas this is like a fresh idea to me. I don't know any game or movie concept that's ever used that exact format in a horror franchise. Do y'all have any thoughts on that or any?
To be fair, I don't think this game follows a lot of trends. I mean, there's a lot of similarities with this game to a lot of games, but I feel like this game's very, very unique in what we're trying to do. But I like Doug, you could put some input in it, but like for me, it's like as long as we have an anchor as to when this takes place, I think it will make a lot more sense into whatever we talk about. Just because we could say this takes place in the 1700s, and that idea can permeate through everything that we've already talked about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And honestly, if you guys are talking about sequels, that's where the ancestors come in. It could be like some kind of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure where you could or Assassin's Creed, where you take them out.
I was about to say Assassin's Creed would work really well.
Yeah, because at this point, what it is, like the way I'm understanding the game is during the day, I can either interact with NPCs and I can work out good, bad, or neutral, where maybe they don't get possessed, I don't see them. It works out good, where maybe they don't want to hurt me, or bad in the sense where I was like, I didn't vibe with them at all, and they're coming for me. Or I can do research, or I can scrounge the grounds, or maybe I can unlock a room. But I only have so much time before night, and I want to focus on one of these depending on the player I am, and then go
That's
into it.
cool.
Yeah, and that just adds a quick. This is a side thing that I could add that will rebound off what Alex just said. But depending on your conversations with people in the day, that could give you advantages or disadvantages or neutrality between the spirits at night. So if you had a good conversation with someone from the cast of characters, yeah, like they'll be like the person's spirit that's battling with the spirit within them can kind of give you an edge in a battle. But if you piss that person off in real life, it'll like make that spirit stronger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even better, if like you could have it where the NPC characters in this game, the AI tracks you. And like, so if you're walking through and you say, go to the library because you're researching some new spells to use. Well, if the maid or the butler or whoever was in there when you were doing it, that can almost kind of be against you because now they kind of know what you were doing or like
or
saw
where
what
you
they
were.
pick up what book you were looking at. Yeah, exactly. Like they grab that book and put it back on the shelf, or they go look at the book, they pull off the shelf and kind of start reading through, and you're like, oh crap, they're gonna know what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Now that's gonna help the demons and the other side of the
And that'll
coin.
also incentivize the player to not go to the library every single day cycle. Like
or to be stealthy how he does it. Like make sure you kind of avoid people and you've got to time it just right.
But then that'll also negatively impact the relationship building that you could build with the people. Like if you decide to sneak around everyone, then you won't be able to meet all the characters and create relationships to maybe hinder the spirits that are taking over their bodies. You know what I mean? Like if you do it sneakily, then you won't build relationships with the help. I get that's the bad way to put it, but
no, you're right.
You know what I mean though.
The servants.
Oh my.
But if you do it sneakily, you won't build relationships. You won't be able to do. There won't be advantages.
True.
But if you do it sneakily, then you could maybe make things easier on yourself. So you'd have to choose sneakily, or relationship building, or just don't give a fuck and just make everyone hate you type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. That would be bad to the bone. One of the side quests I would love to kind of like be in there is like, y'all are talking about the ancestors who do all of this, like you go, like you're going to research them and all that. I'd love there to be like a hallway full of all of these ancient hunters, so to speak, and you get to see them. I think that would be really cool.
Maybe like some portraits on walls as like in one of the hallways, or
like a headmaster at Hogwarts, or like the Avatar, the room where all the avatars have been
with the statues. Yeah. How cool would it be if your summons even could embody those hunters and like
there we go. Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Yeah,
you could do either demons or hunters or both, and like, but if you use the demon summons, like these ancient gods that have super like OP power, that's like can take out one of your heavy hitter demons that the uncle's possessed by, or you can have hunters that like assist you with range attack for like a variety of things like that. You kind of can have those, but it uses your mana aspect up depending on either or.
What I was thinking was with the hunters, that would be fine using mana and having a skill that levels up. With those one shot, those big heavy hitter demons, what if we did that with the day gathering aspect? So like if you want to summon a big heavy hitter demon, you're going to need a goat's heart, you're going to need some thistleweed, and you're going to have a circle full of salt. And you have to make sure this all works. And it has to be like on a full moon. And then boom, you just took out the butler. You're like, I did it. I made it work. That's what I'm thinking, where maybe these big summons, you have to risk it for the biscuit, so to say.
You need an alchemy forge. Like you need like something and it can, and you know what? The burn time for manifesting that could be like 2 or 3 nights. So like you're having to survive all of this for this heavy hitter one shot. So when you use it, you better know what you're doing and who you're using it on. Or you could waste it and be like, I just wasted 4 hours of gameplay for a dud. That would, I would be pissed and I'd go back and do it again.
That kind of reminds me of Divinity 2. I got like 10 hours into that game. I had a wrong build. I had to restart from scratch.
Ooh.
All right, we're starting to talk about very small details in the game. Doug,
Yeah.
Rein
do
us
you have
in.
any like major plots or major mechanics that we might have missed? Or Rob, you got something?
Look at.
So
I think he
Doug-
might
Doug-
have something.
Doug kind of he didn't shut me down. So let me phrase it. He pulled the reins back really hard and I doubled over. So the uncle has a brother, the dad of your main character, right? So this
Yeah.
kid grew up in a really crappy life. Like the dad hated him, would just treat him like crap. The mom's been dead since he was, a little kid. So what you come to find out discovering through this game in a side quest, it's a very optional side quest that you just kind of stumble upon. You have kind of a choice to keep investigating. You find out that his dad was sterile and that the uncle is actually his father.
Whoa!
And like that in the process of all this, the mom dies because she committed suicide from all the guilt and shame once the father discovered he was sterile. And that's what drove the brothers apart, which means he left behind this legacy of hunters, took his son, treated him like crap and all this. And now you come back to this uncle you barely know who turns out to be your dad at the end of the game.
That you almost killed.
That he almost killed.
That
And
you
that's
saved.
why, the ending does suck for that regard. But yes.
That's crazy. I like it.
I like it. Yeah.
Does. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Doug's
So-
like, okay, it works
All
out.
right.
Yeah.
So we have
We all got to the same place. You know what I mean?
So we got the
Fantastic.
lore. We've got what we're doing. We see that it's a third person here. Now, what I'm wondering, like, we know it's taking place in a house, but like, what kind of climate then? Like, where is it going to be? Because I picture just about where I live, but I'm thinking a house, not definitely desert. I'm thinking like maybe a little bit of greenery, but I also think United States because that's where I live. So, you do what
Okay.
you know.
Can I throw
Right.
out there? This
you
whole
got?
time, I think it's the Resident Evil 7 in my head, but I imagine this to be in the bayou, like New Orleans, like
That would be cool. Hey, Louisiana
See, I-
boys.
Yeah, I mean, we can go scouting. Like I was always thinking wilderness, but yeah, bayou absolutely works.
well, I mean, even the bayou, it has a wilderness about it. You know what I mean? You could find
Yeah.
multiple different types of animals, different
What I like,
cultures.
if you do that setting, it does have a strong spiritual culture along with that kind of
Yes.
ties in hand,
Yeah.
where it doesn't have to be
yeah,
necessarily like spot on where that's what's going on, but they kind of touch in it almost like a tangent, where because they practice their own spirituality, they kind of cross beams every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, you could get into Santeria, like that's a big
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
in the culture. Voodoo and
Yeah.
hoodoo, even like some of the characters there could be kind of like where their grandmother was a priestess, or
And that's where you could kind of gain the powers. Like, let's say you're doing voodoo or Santeria, that's where you get into the summons, you get into chopping chickens and doing all that.
Look,
And maybe
It
you just
writes
lend a little bit of
itself
credence.
at this point, guys. It's
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you would do Santeria, but if you wanted to learn where to get a chicken heart from or how to harvest it, where would you go?
I mean, you
Well,
wouldn't
I
go
don't want to
Kroger.
point any fingers.
All right, guys. I think this has become something amazing, but the music, as two musicians yourselves, what are we hearing? Like, I like the idea now that it is in the 60s, because then we just have a genre of music that we could just pull from.
I mean, obviously, Creedence
yeah.
Clearwater is going to show up somewhere in there. That genre of psychedelia and rock and roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite video game soundtracks is. Did you guys play Mafia
Oh
3?
my God.
Oh.
Alex, you know how
Such
much
a-
I love Mafia 3.
What a soundtrack, right? And I mean, it's in Louisiana, so that kind of music still fits.
Oh, Mafia 3 was so good. And yeah, the
It
soundtrack,
was.
the radio in Mafia 3 is better than GTA 5, even.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
GTA 5
Easily.
has some good music, but like,
Oh, yeah.
God, I agree
Yeah.
with you so much right there.
Yeah, I think just sticking with the era of the 60s,
Right.
just the sounds of that time.
I also hear a lot of bluegrass, a lot of like more
You
country.
probably
Yeah.
get even more into Zydeco even at that point, which has like the accordion and the violins and
You're speaking
Imagine
my
that.
language right now, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Which, you know what? As backwaters as the people from Resident Evil 7 was, no Zydeco.
I know.
You can
I
eat
know.
crawfish. You can find crawfish in the game, but that's about as far as it went.
But you couldn't take them to the boil with it because you didn't have a accordion. to
No,
play.
you had to eat them raw.
That's right. That's right.
In terms
That
of
was their
Anyway,
fault. They should have put the
tangent,
accordion. Random side note. Sidebar.
in terms of pricing, how much are you guys willing to pay for this particular game here?
That's the thing. I didn't want it to be a quick playthrough kind of game.
No.
I think me and Doug went back and forth with it. Like,
Yeah.
should it be a quick play, download, indie game? I think as like a demo, that would be a cool, like, Phantom's Run kind of thing. You have like 10 minutes to play the game. So you've got to do all this crazy stuff to fight one battle to kind of give somebody an idea. Oh, you have spells, you have weapons, you have this. But as far as this game as a whole, I would spend 60 on it. Because how many hours of gameplay you think we're talking, Doug?
Yeah, I'm putting the stamp on 60.
I put
and
60.
also
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
mechanics,
Yeah,
development,
I think
the AI,
this is
how
one
the
of those-
AI is going to move. Like, it's all going to be a little complicated.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games where it can be as long as you want or as short as
Exactly.
you want.
Well, like, I mean, from
I-
start to finish, what would you say, like, for baseline, not doing all of the side quests, if you did a straight playthrough of this game, how many hours would you want to invest in a game like this?
I would say
Probably.
Golden Path. This game
Okay.
is like 45 hours. But
See, I
Yeah.
was thinking about that 50, 45, 50.
If it's like first time playthrough, I feel like
Yeah.
if I
No,
got
not
what I
even first time
wanted,
playthrough.
I
This
could
is like-
squash people like 18 hours.
No,
If,
I
like,
think
I could figure it
45
out.
hours is if you don't even care about the story, you're just going through. It's going to take 45 hours. I think if you like care about the story and you're invested and you're trying to do all the research and not all of it, but like a lot of it, this is going to be easy, like 85-hour game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in my head though. Like Golden Path,
But
what I
you
mean
guys
by
gotta
that, it's
remember-
like, you know the game, you know the story beats, you know what the spirits are weak to, and you can just beat this in 45 hours, no problem. But that's if you know everything. I think regularly for first time players, this is like a 60-hour game. 85.
But due to
yeah,
the random
completion.
nature of the game, though, if like you've been playing, like this is like your 5th or 6th playthrough, and you're like, no way I got that armor, no way I got that weapon. Well,
Yeah.
okay. And all of a sudden, it's like I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me. I'm talking about a playthrough like that.
I don't even
epic.
think it'd
I
be
love that.
18 hours though. I think if you were 100% a master at this game, like you know every nook and cranny, you know every single
Right.
spirit that exists, the 50 that we created for this game, right? Even
Right.
then, I think it would take you like speed running this would be like 30 hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my
I'm
opinion.
cool with
though. I
that.
don't know about you guys.
No, I'm cool with
sounds
that.
fair.
That makes
Yeah,
that
yeah.
makes more sense.
How much stuff is jam packed into this? I think this is a new genre. I say this for almost all the We Are Not Game Devs IPs, but I feel like this is a new genre of IP that no one has ever explored before. And
Well, I think
Yeah, dude.
Bloodborne did something kind of like this to a degree, but I feel like that the story itself to me didn't captivate me. It
Plus,
was
you know what?
more
That
about
game's
the
too hard.
grind. You know what I mean? That extra grind.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's my opinion. But like this kind of game, it encompasses your. I don't know. It's really story driven and it's more like you're studying the game. This is a pass fail course. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, Alex. It's time to start your timer because it's time to name this game, and hopefully it doesn't take you long because I
All
feel
right.
like you guys have a
And-
title in mind.
Yeah, they mentioned a title sooner, so I'll get it started now.
Doug, you get the honors, my friend.
Fight or Fright.
Fight or Fright.
That's really good.
It is really
All right.
good.
Yeah.
so that's done within
No, wait,
5 seconds.
Alex, Alex, keep it going.
Okay.
You have a
My
title in
spotless
mind,
record, Jay.
but as we were talking about this game and as we were developing it, a name came to me. For some reason, in my mind, this game is called Demon Hunter, but demon is spelled that weird way, like Damon, like
Damon.
D-A-E-M-O-N, or whatever it's
Yeah,
spelled
yeah.
like.
See, Fight or Fright though stays in my mind. Demon Hunter, I'm thinking about Demon Souls.
That's true.
I'm thinking
That's true.
about
It's
like
it's very
I'm thinking
generic.
about my alt.
all of a sudden
WoW.
Demon Hunt. Yeah, there's too many.
Diablo 3, the Demon Hunter, and Diablo 3.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
There's too many
yeah,
ideas tied to it where in terms of marketing, it would
Yeah.
have different mind spaces.
Yeah.
Well, and the cool thing is originally, like, I think what our thing was this would be kind of like a trilogy. So the first one would be called Fight or Fright Legion, because it's a legion of demons that's possessing these grounds people and your uncle. So that's kind of the concept we were going from. And then the sequel would be the Sanitarium, which would be in the, insane asylum.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the Fight or Fright series. It's simple. Some people would almost say, like, oh, well, that's more like an indie game that you're going to play once in the blue moon and all that. But to me, it kind of encompasses Doug's concept of you're either escaping or you're fighting, and it gives that air to it. Does that make sense?
And what I think is cool about it is I won't talk too much about sequels here, but it would be cool to do the Sanitarium where you land in there and it isn't per chance. These are actually demons who like being in the real world. So they've not only possessed these people, but they're the administration. So they exist during the day and night, but they just happen to take on a more human-like form during the day. So they're all demons in the Sanitarium.
Right.
So I think it's a great idea.
All right.
And then I could even see it. Yeah. I won't go on more about sequels.
Flight. How long is that, Alex?
What?
Technically 5 seconds.
All right, 5 seconds. Alex, would you mind, or Doug, actually, would you mind giving us a quick elevator pitch to Fight or Flight?
All right. So it's basically a game where you're having to fight through a mansion of demons to basically defeat this legion that's taken hold of your uncle.
In Fight or Flight. Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we have a game here, Alex, Doug, and Rob. What do you think? Would this be a game you'd like to play? And is it fun?
Oh, yes.
I definitely would. Wait.
Oh yeah, most assuredly.
Either Robbie's face is frozen for me.
Yeah, so something's happened with my Discord, guys. Like, I have my computer like wigged out and now I can't see you guys.
I was just gonna say, I think I heard Rob laugh.
He's got a very stoned, like a stone still face right now.
I have a very interesting face going on. I can tell you that.
Well, for me,
You look like Hank Williams Jr.
It's two dots that are just making a circle around each other now. So I feel like we may have lost you for a second. I still hear you though, so I think we're good there.
Yeah.
But yeah, Doug, Rob, this is a game here, man. You guys have something special. I think this is definitely something I would love to play and love to exist, and I would play the shit out of it. I'd play it twice. I'd play it 3 times maybe. And
Makes
that's
my
rare
heart
for
brush
me.
my teeth
I
to this
barely
game.
play games twice.
I'm the same way.
Me too, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, WoW's about the only game I played more than twice.
That's Destiny for me. But yeah, no, I would love
Yeah.
I would love the same to exist. Now that we've talked about it, it's a lot of my favorite games from recent times. All the best aspects of them put into one, and I love it. Like, this is an awesome idea, and yeah, I would have a great time with it.
Cool deal, man.
Sweet. I'm glad you like it, dude.
Yeah, no. Alex, did you give your opinion? Would you want to play this?
Oh yeah, no, I said the same thing. This is what I want. It's basically keeping the horror in horror while also putting in a lot of robust elements that other games have that I feel like horror drops off in once the jump scares are over with. So this still has some meat on the bones, where it's going to keep the scary up with the randomizations while also kind of giving you that day-night cycle so you can prepare.
Yeah, I want it to be as frightening as I just want that level of fright to
Yeah.
more than anything. I want to pee myself.
Mr. X all the time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, now that we have a complete game, this is the hard part. What game studio would you want to make Fight or Flight the best?
Monolith
Okay,
is my vote.
Interesting.
I'm just gonna come right out because they did
See-
such a great job with Nemesis. system, obviously. They're like the forerunners are like they've made this their baby. And then their art style is pretty good. Like it's improved quite a bit. I'm very interested to see what their next line of games that come out are going to be, but that would be my vote, Monolith.
See, I would almost want CD Projekt Red to take a crack at this.
Ooh, you just evolved this game into over 100-hour game.
No kidding.
Because
you're right.
I mean, just looking at what they did with The Witcher, I mean, if we've got a variety of different demons in there, I
Yeah.
think they would do a really good job with it.
No, I think it'd be really cool because it might not even be over 100 hours because maybe giving CD Projekt Red one area that's decently small, like it's not as big as like The Witcher 3 as a whole, you know?
Right.
Maybe that'll
Yeah.
give them more of a confined scope of this game
Yeah.
and put so much into this small space. Yeah, that could be amazing. Like CD Projekt Red could do something fantastic with
absolutely.
this. Yeah.
And for me, I'm gonna go with Creative Assembly / Feral Interactive. They're the developers behind Alien Isolation. I think if I were to give them a bunch of demons and spirits in one place, like they did, and really make it where it's really ominous the way they did with the Alien, I think it could create some really awesome results.
Yeah. I think Alex, at least I know you would back me up on this, but I feel like Arcane Studios.
Oh wow, you did it for me. Thank you.
Prey.
Prey.
Right?
That's the only one I'm
And
thinking of right now.
Dishonored
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
That's true.
Prey was so the new
And
Prey. I haven't played
Arcane
any Prey
Studios
before that,
Would handle the power up so
Yeah.
well because they
Oh,
already
yeah.
did in Dishonored.
but like, oh man, Prey was so good, and it's not like this, but it has aspects of fight or flight that I think they could translate super well over, you know, and
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think Arcane could do some amazing things with this this IP specifically.
I'm really liking where you're going with that because, like, yeah, that just blew my mind. Love it.
And with that, our 105th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You could write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. If you, we're still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. If they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review Fight or Flight, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday. Again, my name is J.E.
And I'm Alex Gonzalez.
And
I'm Doug Doucette.
And I'm Rob Lewis.
fantastic. Thank you. And please remember that we are not game devs. I always forget to prepare guests for this, but we don't end the show just at the end. We kind of just talk at the end.
I love it.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of like we do, but we do it off air, ironically. Like, we will keep going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
Or
No.
what's worse is
So-
I'll keep going and going before the episode starts. And Doug's like, shut up.
We have to keep it going.